Welcome to Those Guys Sports, and this is your boy Mike. And today I decided to make two podcasts. The first one focused, of course, on the team up north, the Toronto Raptors, my favorite team besides the Utah Jazz, who is my only team because I like them because, I was not a big Jordan fan, even in the 90s. I'm not even that old. I honestly didn't even watch him, but I just knew that I'd rather not pick him. But yeah, that's my Toronto Raptors team. Finished the season off beating the Milwaukee Bucks G League team plus the Raptors. It had a couple starters. So if you're gonna have like a couple starters and Gary Trent Jr. and to play, like, you're expected to win that game. That's an expected game you should win. I actually probably watched like the second half. Not the second quarter, and like it was the second half of the second quarter. I really didn't watch this game. Um, didn't really care for it. It's good that their home record is pretty good, being 27-14. Ultimately, this didn't matter for either teams. When the Raptors had lost to Boston by such a large margin, and Atlanta won their game before, it just kind of fell into place that you knew the Raptors were not going to be eighth seed, which you really wanted the Raptors to be eighth seed. Like, you wanted the Raptors to be eighth seed. It's what would have made it much easier if you don't know. Being eighth seed puts you in for one game. You have one game, and that's what I think. That's what I wanted to see the Raptors have, is that one game against Miami. Would have been much better, like much better. Now, my next podcast, I'm gonna talk more about like the NBA as a whole. Talk about a little bit of the play-in tournament. Talk about what just happened on this Sunday. The fact that we had two fights. Rudy Gobert hits Kyle Anderson. Then we have Bones Highland and Mason Plumlee also fighting as well. Like, what's going on here? To win a title, you have to have a lot of chemistry. You have to get along. And if you don't get along, stuff like this is going to happen. But I'm going to dive into that when I speak about the NBA as a whole. Now, like I said, I'm focusing a lot on the Raptors. This podcast won't be too long. I know I say that all the time, but I am truly predicting that this time it won't be a long podcast. I just know I want to talk about the 41-41 Toronto Raptors. Now, we can dive into the season, which that'll be a whole other podcast. Probably would take an hour, maybe 2 hours, maybe take a whole week with videos and podcasts galore talking about this team. But this 41-41 team, pretty mid-season. But quite frankly, when I look across the league, when I look across the standings, there's nothing that truly stands out to me. There's nothing and no one that I can say, you know what, this is the team that was better than this team, or this team was better than that. It just, nothing really stood out. There were only ultimately 4 games from Brooklyn. They were about 6 games from New York. So it's not like they were this ultimately bad team. Like, they just had a lot of really weird losses. Losses against the Pelicans, loss against the Pacers, the 2 losses against Orlando. Like, those losses were really bad. So it's sometimes when you see it, it kind of it hurts. All those losses down the line hurt the Raptors. All those losses. That's why they are where they are. 41-41. Of course, we've had some pretty bad games from Pascal, pretty bad games from Scotty, pretty bad games from, you know what? OG's had some, yeah, OG has had some bad games. Fred, who's been the essence of people complaining, we've had some bad games with him, but it is what it is. You kind of move past it. But the one thing that I want to talk about, especially, headed to this play-in, which I'm actually going to talk about the play-in with them in Chicago, is Nick Nurse. We just seen that Houston fired their coach. And the one thing, you keep hearing rumors overall that Nick Nurse is going to go to the Rockets. He's gonna play with the Rockets. He's gonna play with them, and that's the team he's going to. All those stuff, like, you hear it. You hear him talking about it, which I think was a horrible thing for him to do. Why are you talking about this? Why are we even mentioning this? Like, what are we doing here? But he did. He talked about his future. He said 10 years is good. Now I have to, evaluate if I really want to be here. He didn't say it in those words, but that's what it sounded like. that he didn't want to be here anymore. He doesn't want to be with this team. So if he's saying that, it makes you start thinking. Now, in saying that as well, we don't know how long we have Nick Nurse for. That's what it looks like. It looks like after this season, he's greatly gonna start thinking about his options. And if Houston is on the back burner saying like, "Hey, we want him," maybe he'll join Houston. The thing is, a lot of people may not know is that when Nick Nurse started, he was their G League coach. At the time it was the D League. He was their D League coach, and he led them to a G League title, I believe. He did a very quick offense. He did all that. So, but my thing is that like going to Houston is a up and coming team. Up and coming team. Is he really gonna want to play with a team that like is looking to tank, not really looking to develop? And the one thing I would say with Nick Nurse in comparison to Dwayne Casey, who decided to take a step down on his coaching, but take a step up to be a part of the front office, whatever that means. Because I don't think Detroit wanted to fire him. That's a whole other situation. I don't think they wanted to fire him. Now, in saying that, you know, I think with Nick Nurse in comparison to Dwayne Casey, what I'm saying is Dwayne Casey developed guys. He developed Pascal, developed Fred. Of course, it was their own growth as well, but Norm developed. I feel like sometimes Norm was back and forth a lot. Even with Nick Nurse, I felt like Norm was back and forth. That whole bench mob was with Nick Nurse. And, I mean, it was with Dwayne Casey. And I kind of feel like with Nick Nurse, and this is, a lot of people can argue this, and Dwayne Casey can definitely put his hand up and argue. Nick Nurse had his first year, had Kawhi Leonard, a good Kyle Lowry, a Pascal, growing a Pascal, Norm, Danny Green, Ibaka, Gasol, and Fred VanVleet. He had 8 guys that were like of quality. Of quality. And I didn't name OG. And OG was like back in and out of the lineup most of the year. He had all these guys. All of them. He had he had a good squad. And the year after that, he had everyone but Danny Green and Kawhi. Still a pretty good team. But then he lost Ibaka and Gasol. Right? Then Norm left. So this team wasn't that great. Last year the team was good. Last year the team was, what, 4th, 5th place or whatever? Yeah, they lost to Philadelphia because, the going, positionless or without a center did backfire. So you kind of look at it, and then, when you go to a deep dive of the season, it's something we have to argue. Was not having a 5 for basically the past 2 seasons the real issue? Someone say, yeah. The one thing the Raptors got to talk about is Precious Achiuwa. I like Precious Achiuwa. I can see it. Like, I took a step back really watching Precious Achiuwa. And even in my conversations with Samson Folk, he's a big fan, and I see it. Like, if he's good, this team is a different level. When he's hitting his shots at like a 35 to close to 40% rate, and I mean a 3-point shot, when he can, drive to the lane and make positive decisions, this team could be really. His defensive ability, all that stuff. I think what changed, and I like the fact that it changed, even though he does play backup 5, but sometimes you see Koloko play backup 5. Precious isn't a 5. Maybe a small ball 5 if you're going against like a Draymond, going against a team that he could play the 5 if he's going against like the Boston Celtics. That he can play the 5 against those teams, but he can't play the 5 against Embiid, Jokic. He can't do that. That's where OG's probably a better defender, post defender than Precious. I do think not having that Precious season that we were all looking forward to is one of the dilemmas, right? Because if you had a good Precious, you would have had a better bench. But you didn't have a good Precious, so you didn't have a good bench. Chris Boucher has actually been the most consistent player all year. I think he had a 1-week stretch where he wasn't that good. Other than that, Chris Boucher's been pretty good all season. All season. If the team was good, people would have talked about Chris Boucher as a 6th man of the year. He doesn't score as much, but people would be talking about it. I think that's what I want to see. I think about the fact that, and life moves fast. The podcast I made about what we want to see from different players. I know with Chris Boucher, I said I wanted him to be a part of that conversation. With Precious, I wanted those thoughts that everyone had to come true. Someone like Scotty, I'm like, nah, Scotty, it's okay. I'm not expecting nothing from you. anyone who expected anything from Scotty this year doesn't know basketball, doesn't know like the growth of a player. Scotty had a really good first year. That doesn't happen a lot. For a few players, it doesn't happen. Evan Mobley and Scotty Barnes' first year is better than Pablo Banquero's first year, and he's going to win the Rookie of the Year. And those two guys had a better rookie season than him. Cade has probably had a better season than Pablo. So you never know. Sometimes you just get a class of rookies that's just so good. Getting a Franz, getting a Giddy, like that just happens. So I never expected anything from Scotty, right? But all in all, when I'm talking about the growth of a team, I know I went on a little bit of tangent. I don't think Nick Nurse grew this team the way it should have been grown. I would have almost accepted a 41 and 41 if we saw more Malachi, if we saw more Delano Banton. Raptor fans, and I'll get to the bulk of Raptor fans who sometimes I feel like don't watch the game. Sometimes I feel a lot of the Raptor fans listen to certain podcasts and kind of run with that, or listen to certain people who have certain platforms. And I think I think they're incorrect. You know, I don't have a strong platform, but I definitely believe I know ball a little bit more than some of these people. I definitely believe that I can talk it a little differently. I think some of these people are, quite frankly, incorrect with the way that they view everything and the way they see it. The Raptors had a really good last season. This season wasn't great, but it's not because there's just this horrible team. Yes, people had high expectations, and the teams like the Knicks beat a lot of people's expectations. But all in all, what team like the Raptors being 41 and 41 would have made it to the West? Like, look at the Western standards, look at the East standards. It's darn near the same. No one's outbeating this. There's legit three teams: Milwaukee, Boston, and Philly that have that we all think could be title contenders. The Suns, it's more like let's see it to believe it. The Lakers more of a see it to believe it. Denver's more of a see it to believe it. Where when Philly, Boston, and really just Boston and Milwaukee, the two teams you're like, yep, they can win the title. There's no question. There's not really any black hole in that team. It's pretty good. The Raptors weren't going to be there, right? So that's why the Raptor fans were pretty angry about not doing anything in the trade deadline. But ultimately speaking, if we got those young guys, like, was Nick Nurse going to play them? That's the question you have to ask yourself. Was Nick Nurse actually going to play the young guys? Or was he going to go even more vet heavy? Play Pascal even more minutes for the second year in a row. Second year in a row, Pascal Siakam has led the league in minutes played. Second year in a row? Come on, man. That's a little too much minutes now. Now, I thought about this last night. I'm thinking with Pascal, he didn't make All NBA. He's not going to make it. He's not going to make it. He has a case, but he had a really bad stretch when it was like he faced like Denver, LA's. That road trip was a bad stretch. If he had a good stretch then, I think there'd almost be no question that he would deserve it more than Randall. But Randall has a 47-win team. Raptors are a 41 and 41 team. Last year you made it over Jimmy Butler, who was the number one seed. I don't think we're going to see Pascal do it again. It's just not going to happen. Now, with Nick Nurse, and I keep referring back, we didn't really see any of the young guys. The only young guy we really saw consistently was Koloko, and that wasn't even consistent itself. He gave Koloko more chance than anyone else because I believe this is where the rumors are that the front office and Nick Nurse aren't seeing eye to eye for certain things, and I'm not sure what the front office wants to do. I'm not sure if they want to kind of take a step back, if they want to give the offense more to Scotty. I'm not too sure. I don't know what their differences are, but I feel like Koloko playing more was one of those. The front office wants him to play. They need him to play to show why getting Thad Young was worth it, and I still think it was worth it. This hindsight thing that everyone's doing, like, oh, we could have got Walker Kessler, blah blah blah. If Walker Kessler ends up not being a great player or ends up being like Zubac, like, no one's gonna be complaining. No one's gonna be complaining. We love to complain about the most randomest things. Like, it just doesn't make sense. Also, Raptor fans, the Raptors are going to want to win next year because they don't have their draft pick. And I know it's top, like, 12 protect or something. There's some protection on it. But at the end of the day, like, you want the pick. And, or you don't want the pick. You want to give it to them so that you can have the rest of your picks. Like, Raptors are not going to want to do any of that. So they're going to I think the Raptors are going to be aggressive. If you're not aggressive, then you got to trade everybody. And I don't want to trade anyone, but you got to trade. But the one thing I think I want to see as a Raptor fan, the one thing I wish Nick Nurse did a lot more this season is play the young guys more. I would have been way more fine with that if we got more minutes for Malachi, Delano, because Delano had a really good summer. But and then people were like talking about Delano. People were thinking Delano was gonna be something. I know some people think Delano's not even an NBA player. But like if Delano Banton's getting spoken about on a Bill Simmons podcast, a guy who really knows nothing about the Raptors, that means at least you hear the buzzing. You hear the talk. So I thought, he was gonna get a little bit more minutes. And it's crazy because like he had a really good like 27-point game. Then the next game I think he played like 15 minutes. And that's the issue. I think there's inconsistency there. And yes, you want to play Fred, you want to play Scotty, you want OG to play because you want to get their minutes up, you want to get them to have their stats up, blah blah blah. But when if you have a good bench, like it's all gonna happen at the end of the day. Like look at the Celtics. Oh my gosh, Brogdon's probably going six man of the year. Like I should do an awards video, but like Brogdon's probably going to six man of the year. Like it's all happening, right? And still, they're Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum are like top 10 scorers in the league. So mind you, they still have the six man of the year and two top 10 scorers. They still have Derek White. You still have guys who are getting their touches. Marcus Smart's still doing his thing. Pritchard only against the Raptors is doing his thing. So you don't have to worry, right? I would have been okay if the Raptors played the young guys a little bit more, especially if like we ended up being 41-41. Who knows what we would have ended up if we played more of the young guys? But I kind of would have wanted to see them take more of Reigns, having the backup being Malachi, which I believe Malachi is going to get some. I'm not sure because Barton's on the team now, so I'm not sure he's going to get some. He probably won't get any run. But it's one of those things you wanted to see more, especially when you didn't get any Thad. At one point, we didn't see Thad at all. I don't know what that was. I don't know. I don't know if that's a. And I like that young. He's one of those guys. Like if he's like your 12th man, 13th man, I'm okay with that. I'm okay with him being your, Udonis Haslem. Like I'm okay with that. It's not. It's. I think every team needs vets. I think you can always be so young. If you look at a team like, the Houston Rockets, who Nick Nurse is being spoken about, that team has no vet. They lost their vet, and what's his name? The one who went to the Clippers. Forgot his name already. I don't know why. Eric Gordon. They lost their vet, so like, that's why I don't think Nick Nurse is ever gonna go there, right? Yeah, there's so much more to dive into Nick Nurse, but like, I don't know what's gonna happen there. I don't know what's I believe he made some mistakes. I definitely do. He's not perfect. He's not a perfect coach. Sorry, looking at the standings, I see the Raptors in their last 10 games was 6-4. But the way you would have thought from like Raptors Twitter and all this like other stuff, you would have thought this team was like 2-8. And diving into right before I get to the preview of Chicago Bulls, DeMar coming back, and the Raptors, I just want to talk about Raptor fans, and I feel like I complain a lot. Mind you, I myself as a Raptor fan, it's just when you go on Twitter and you see the Discord and you see like people just like down in the dumps about them, and I get it because trust me, I love my Raptors. I love talking about them. This platform on YouTube is fun to talk about the Raptors, and when you see people just generally just dislike the Raptors or generally hate every move Nick Nurse makes, everything Scotty does, everything Fred does, especially everything Fred does. This year, I think people have been much more calmer about Pascal because they're like, oh my gosh, when Pascal's good, he's really good. Pascal says he's going to be top 5. He obviously don't want to be top 5, but he's easily a top 20 player in the league. Easily. I think he does need to win these 2 games to show that he's unquestionably, because I can say he's easily, but it's something about the American media, blah, blah, blah. But with Raptor fans, they get so down in the dumps. We are already thinking we're going to lose. We think we're going to beat Chicago. That's the funny thing. Raptor fans are so like, and I get it because you've seen so much pain, it kind of keeps going and it just happens. But everyone is so convinced that the Raptors are going to beat Chicago. Everyone's like, yeah, we'll beat Chicago. Even me, I think we're going to beat Chicago. I'm going to watch that game because I normally don't hate watching games sometimes, especially playoffs, because then I get crazy, blah, blah, blah. It's a whole thing. But everyone believes truly that we were going to beat Chicago. It's when we face, most likely it'll be Atlanta. When we face Atlanta, everyone's like, yeah, we're going to lose that game. We're going to lose the Atlanta game. And it could happen. It's in Atlanta. You know what can happen. You're hoping, everyone's shooting well. But this whole play-in, what makes it so crazy, I do think it's one game. It turns into whoever has the best player sometimes. And if Zach LaVine and DeMar are hitting their shots, hitting their mid-ranges, it's going to be hard to beat them. They have a top 5 defense since like the All-Star break. They've been a pretty good team. Now, it's weird that they like kind of fell off at the tail end of the season, so you don't know what could happen. But I can only imagine if the Raptors lost against Chicago, what the feeling is going to be across the board. And it sucks because you hear the way they talk about it. The Raptor players are like, oh, we're a scary team. No team's going to want to face us. And you're like, okay, I love the confidence. I appreciate the confidence. But I don't see that every game. When you're losing 50-22 against the Boston Celtics, where's all that like, yeah, no, we got this. Like, where's all that? I always say the championship year, they just believe that they're gonna win. Like the year after the title, like that post championship season, they walked in there and you just believe that they're gonna win. There's a confidence level of that team. Could have been a Kyle Lowry thing. Who knows? This is where sometimes I feel like that Pascal and Fred, they speak about it, but like you got to be about it a little bit more. So I don't know what these Raptor fans are gonna do if they lose to Chicago. They're gonna say trade Pascal, trade Fred, trade everyone. But now lately it's like it's weird, man. Keep everyone. Then it's trade everyone except Scotty, of course. Then it's trade everyone but keep Scotty and OG. Then it's trade everyone except Scotty. And I was always keep Scotty. Everyone knows to keep Scotty. The young one, you got to keep him. Then it's like we got to keep Precious as well because he's still probably has one of the most upsides because Precious is only still like 23. Like Precious is a young guy. Most of the other guys Pascal's gonna be 30. I think his birthday party. I think he's 29 now. But a lot of the guys are, are who they are. OG, which I think he's gonna be a topic of discussion throughout the whole off season, because you're thinking to yourself, what is OG's role? What role does he want? Everyone wants him to be a certain role. It may not be the case. I really wanted to quickly see Precious's age. He's 23. Precious is mad young. Mad young is Precious. He averaged 9 and 6 and kind of 1 assist. I kind of want to see Precious go to that 3 assists. 12 points, 7 rebounds is fine, and that 3 assists. Become more of a guy who can help his fellow teammates. I don't know if that's gonna happen so much. But I'm curious to see how Raptor fans are gonna be. I know they're gonna be they're everyone's saying, "Oh, let's just tank." Everyone's just so negative. Raptor fans are so draining. Damn, we're not better than Boston. So I'm sorry that we lost by 30. Okay, we're not better than them anyway. They still had one of their better players, and they're still a good team. The Raptors aren't a good team. When we didn't have Kawhi, we were 17-5 because we were still a good team. Those days that Kyle did, we still had a good team. When you have a bunch of guys who can do their thing, you're still a good team. It doesn't really matter. So, all in all, with this Raptors team, people can hate, they can dislike, they can feel this team is not good, you can talk down on them. All in all, this team is who they are. We're going to have all offseason to dive on this team, to complain about this team, blah, blah, blah. You can do all that. This team was, not better than Boston, not better than Philly. I knew Cleveland will have a better record than Toronto. If you just looked at it, Cleveland has the type of guys who will win you regular season games. Donovan Mitchell will always win regular season games. I think Toronto was better than them. I think Toronto right now, in a 7-game series against New York, they would win. A 7-game series against Cleveland, I think Toronto would win. To this day, I still think it. But regular season-wise, the Raptors were just not good. Inconsistent. Some games just not having it on. And once again, there's so much factors to that. And Raptor fans can dive on it. But I hate the thought of we have a bad game. It's like the end of the world for Raptor fans. Please stop it. This is the NBA. Like, you're not gonna be great. Yes, hopefully we have a top 10 pick. We may not, probably like top 12. But that's just not how it is. This 41-41 team is what they are. You are what your record tells you you are. And people can say, "Oh, we had some injuries." Man, OG's played the most games he's ever played. Okay, I'm not sure it's ever, but I think like it's darn near close to it. Pascal played 70 plus games. Fred played close to 70 plus games. Fred's at 69 games. Scotty played 76 games. Like everyone was fair. The guys you needed to be healthy were healthy. Now, was your bench good? No, it wasn't good. Your bench wasn't great. But all in all, the Raptors, you know, they were a mid team. They played mid. Now, going into this play-in tournament, I may make another video just talking about this amazing play-in tournament that's about to happen with the Raptors against the Chicago Bulls. A Chicago Bulls team that, um, like I said, they have been pretty good all season. I think throughout what was their season record? Let me double check. I don't have it. I don't see where they're actually favored. I'm on ESPN. ESPN Analytics says they're favored. I'm not sure if they're actually going to be favored, but I do know that Chicago has two guys, like I mentioned before, DeMar and Zach LaVine. You don't know what's going to happen there. So when the Raptors faced them, they did a back-to-back. So, yep. So that one they won. They lost. That's 1-1. Let's look at the schedule. Then they won again. That's 2-1. I think they only put in 3 times. So they were 1 against Chicago. 2-1 against Chicago. This is a one game. And DeMar, I think, would love. DeMar would love to end the Raptors season. DeMar DeRozan would love to end the Raptors season. If he can say I came to the place that I called home and ended their season, I think he would enjoy that. So expect DeMar to go for 40. Expect Zach to go for 40. Expect Vucevic to do his thing as well because he's been pretty good. I think he's been pretty good all season. They're going to re-sign him because why not? They're okay with being mid as well. So, I don't know. I think my prediction is the Raptors will win because I do think they should have the most talent. I think no one on that team could beat Pascal one-on-one. I think Pascal's a better player than Zach LaVine. I understand that Zach LaVine has probably more of the bag, but I'd rather Pascal. More dynamic, better defender, all that. Now, the way the matchup is going to go, of course, it's going to be Vucevic and Pirtle. I think Pirtle's going to be huge in this game. Of course, you got Fred. Who's their point guard nowadays? Who does Chicago start? Like, Chicago's been such a weird team that I don't even know who they start anymore. Like Chicago, now I'm searching Chicago Bulls. But I do know, of course, Zach. I think Scotty can guard Zach. OG can guard DeMar. Really, OG can guard whoever because OG is gonna be a first small NBA player. Oh yeah, they have a playing legend, Patrick Beverly. They have a playing, and they have Alex Caruso, who I think last time they made. I think they're gonna put Alex Caruso on Pascal. They're gonna let Caruso guard Pascal because they did last time. So they kind of literally have a 4 guard lineup. So Raptors have the length, the bench. Kobe White can go off. Patrick Williams. I'm not really worried about this. Andre Drummond can get a lot of rebounds. That's the only person I'm really, Kobe White and Andre Drummond are the 2 guys. But other than that, Patrick Beverly, he's gonna do whatever he can to win that playing game. He did it last time with the Timberwolves. I think he'll do it again. And Alex Cruz is a good defender. Some people are saying that he should be a first-team All-NBA defender. So let's see. So, because defensively, Zach and DeMar, what are they going to do? So you have Fred and Patrick. You have, I think it's going to be Scotty will guard Zach and OG will guard DeMar. Yeah. And then Pascal will guard Caruso, I guess. Or Pascal can guard Zach. But I think if you want Pascal to be a good roamer, you let Pascal guard Caruso. If you want to confuse them, maybe you put this may sound crazy. Maybe the Pirtle will be more of a roamer around the basket for like that Zach Levine and Demar drives, and then you make Pascal guarded Demar, make OG guard Zach, Scotty guards Alex Caruso, and then that still Vucevic and Nikola, or like you just try to fix something up, you know, to kind of help the team around. But the Raptors bench could be arguably better. But a lot of times I would say the two mid teams. Let's just see. But I'm gonna pick the Raptors. I don't know what the score is gonna be. You're hoping the Raptors, the bench comes. The X factor for this game for the Bulls, it's if Kobe White can hit shots, it's gonna be good for them. Of course, for the Raptors, the person is um, it's definitely Gary Trent Jr. If Gary Trent Jr. can give you 20 points a game or 20 points in this game, I think it's a win. Scotty shows a lot of energy. As long as Scotiabank shows a lot of energy for this play-in, it'll be fine. It'll be fine. Because I won't. The Bulls are not going to shoot a lot of threes, so luckily you're lucky there. But you still don't want to leave Cruz open, Zach open, Vucevic open. Like you still want to leave people open. But all in all, I do think this is a Raptors win. You're hoping to Raptors win. It'd be kind of funny if Atlanta wins and you got to beat DeMar and then Kyle to get into the playoffs. Kind of funny, but I do believe the Heat will win. But yeah, that's it for the Raptors podcast. This 41-41 team. The game is against the Bulls. I'm just hoping it's not a blowout. I hope it's a blowout for the Raptors. I hope they destroy the Bulls. I hope it's a 20-point win. I don't want, when it comes to playing games, I don't want no close games. I want no, for the Raptors. I want them to beat the Bulls, go and face Atlanta and beat them, because then you face the Bucks, who probably first game is gonna crush you. Then you probably have 2 games off after that, and then you can kind of get some rest. That's what I think. Make sure you like and subscribe. Follow on all platforms. Please check the TikTok of Those Guys Sports. That's me. It's your boy. And, we keep going. Like, subscribe. We'll talk again soon. Check out the NBA podcast that probably should be posted as well as this today. And, enjoy.